And welcome back, everyone, to the Pokemon Team Creation Series. This one comes to us from Shadows82, who asked the question, what is the Pokemon team of Belldandy from is it My Goddess? Was My Goddess or All My Goddess or something like that? Belldandy? My Goddess. I'm not very familiar with this series, but luckily the wiki gave me enough information that I felt I could make a relatively coherent team. And long and short of the series, a guy makes a wish that the goddess, a goddess would be his bride or something like that, stay with him, and she's the goddess that stays with him. I think it's from the early 2000s, the series, if not late 90s, I think early 2000s. But she's not just a goddess, oh, I'm an angel, right? No, she is actually a very powerful individual. She's just very peaceful and passive. Many abilities of hers revolve around the wind, manipulation from small gusts to hurricanes and tornadoes. She's also very empathic, able to really key into individuals' emotions. She can manipulate the weather. She is also known as being a powerful singer, not just just singing, but abilities that link to song. So I felt there was certainly enough there for me to be able to work out a coherent Pokemon team. Right out of the gate, when I read that she was very empathic and in tune to people's emotions, Gardevoir stepped into my mind. But because she's among the more powerful characters in the series, I went with Mega Gardevoir for this. I think this would be her starter Pokemon. The Ralts line is very empathic, driven towards positive emotions. Oftentimes they go to people who in need to help them, feel better, all that. So a Mega Gardevoir, I think, works. It's a fairy psychic type, so it works also with the kind of goddess divine trope. So I think that worked pretty well for her starter. Then we went to wind. Now, when it came to wind, about 2/3 of this team became flying types. But there was some thought process behind it, not just throwing any random flying type I could throw in. But that being said, I went with one of the standard ones I haven't used in a while. I went with Pidgeot as their standard one. If you were, say, starting out on your journey, a Pidgeot would be one of the mon you'd most likely find early routes. So this makes sense that a Pidgeot would be one of her main Pokemon. Plus, it can learn things like Gust, Hurricane, Twister, all things that represent elements, wind, weather. Beyond that, though, I went next with Togekiss. Togekiss, I went with A, because again, flying type. B, though, it's a fairy. And she has a little fairy nymph being as her companion to help aid her in her wind magic. So I felt a fairy flying type was good. I could have gone Togetic. It is more closer to a fairy, in terms of size, than Togekiss. Togekiss is not huge, but it's 4'11", I think it is, in terms of length, not including wingspan. It's designed more after a kite than Togetic is closer to a fairy, as close as it can be. I don't know, I think that could maybe be interchangeable, Togekiss or Togetic. But Togekiss also can learn some powerful, Air Slash, powerful wind moves as well. Again, moving past that, we go with Altaria. Now, this one, again, is a very gentle Pokemon. The Dragon type gives it a bit extra ferocity. It's literally a bird in a cloud. So the idea of weather manipulation and a Pokemon that's kind of in the clouds all the time works, in my opinion. Add on the fact it can, again, learn some powerful wind moves, learn many other moves. It has a good coverage. So I thought that was a decent pick here. Now, this next one was a little tricky. But I ultimately went with Oricorio Sensu Mode, the ghost variant of it. Now, why did I go this variant? Well, because she is a goddess, she is not a mortal being. She's not human. So I wanted something that could represent the more ethereal, spiritual, extra-dimensional, whatever, beyond human type being that she is. And I still wanted to try to keep it in line with the flying type because, again, her dominant ability is wind and some weather manipulation because of that. I chose Oricorio Sensu mode, partly because Ghost kind of fits that little niche. Beyond that, though, it's a mana you don't see often on these teams. It's still a flying type. It's also got an elegance to it. That's the big other reason I chose it, because of the elegance it has with it. Because as a goddess, as, you know, a powerful woman, she does carry a level of regal elegance to her. And so I liked that pick, but that's one of the ones I feel could be interchangeable. You could maybe do something different if you could find the right mon to fit the mold. But last but not least, we do have to talk about her ability to sing, and being one of the best, I believe they call them songstresses. Singers. She's one of the best singers in her world, and she can use what would, I guess, the equivalent of battle magic with her singing. So with that, I knew I needed, like, this would be, along with Gardevoir Mega, this would be an ace. And when I think about an ace that sings, there's only one real mon that sings that is true ace, and that music is specifically their inspiration as a concept, and that's Meloetta. Meloetta is literally designed after a singer. She has music notes. She has a music note on her head, but she's also got, like, music, sheet music for hair. So I felt that was the proper pick to end this on. And again, I'm not saying all these Pokemon have to be male, but being a female Pokemon lends itself to her team as well. I would say if any of the Pokemon on this team would be male, it'd probably be the Pidgeot and the Altaria. I think the Oricorio, the Togekiss, and definitely the Meloetta, even though Meloetta, I believe, is Meloetta genderless? It's got a female design, but I'm checking that right now. I don't remember if it's genderless or if it's solely female. Because there are a couple legendaries that are solely one gender. They're very few and far between, but there are a couple that fall into that category. Let me see here. Meloetta. Where are you, Mel? Where are you, Mel? Meloetta, there we go. All right, Meloetta. Is it always female, or is it always gender? Okay, no, it is genderless. It is genderless. It's clearly got a female-inspired design, that's all. Regardless, that is the basic team I have here. Now, this team here's the thing. This team isn't that badly balanced, believe it or not. Except for the fact that 2/3 of the team are flying types. And so, I mean, it's got two mon on the team that are immediately weak to poison, with the 2 fairy types. It's got 2 mon on the team that are immediately weak to steel, with the 2 fairy types. 2 mon on the team that are weak to bug, with the 2 psychic types. 2 mon on the team that are weak to ghost, which again are the 2. Well, actually, technically speaking, it would have been 3, but Meloetta being a normal type gives it an immunity to ghost. So Oricorio and Gardevoir are the only 2 that actually have a key weakness to ghost on this team. Fairy, you have Altaria, who's obviously weak to fairy. Beyond that, though, who was the other? Oh, Meloetta's fighting form has a weakness to fairy. That's what it was. Otherwise, and 2 dark type weaknesses for, actually just one, 2 dark. Oricorio and Meloetta base form has a weakness to dark as well. Gardevoir skirts that issue by having the fairy type. But then you get into the 3 main weaknesses of this team, and it takes out, it's not good. Half this team is weak to rock. Altaria's got no special defense, neither does Oricorio, neither does Pidgeot. In fact, actually, neither does, did I get this wrong? Is it actually 4 weaknesses to rock? Or does Dragon resist rock? Give me 1 second here. I'm blanking right now. I don't think Dragon resists rock. So 1 second here. Because otherwise I need to fix this immediately, because actually there's two types that completely and utterly decimate this entire team. Hold on, Dragon. Does it have a resistance? Okay, no, Dragon does not have a resistance to rock. Rock is neutral. And unfortunately, flying is strong. Rock is strong against flying, which means, yeah, Altaria is also weak to rock on this team. So, there's actually 2/3 of this team. All your flyers are completely weak to rock. all your flyers are completely weak to ice. However, Dragon does resist electricity. And so Altario is just neutral to electric attacks, but half the team gets taken out by electricity. So it's really not that balanced. Like, the minor weaknesses actually are pretty balanced out. It's just when you get to those 3 core weaknesses, this team really gets its teeth kicked in. Which, when we're talking about how well this team would do in any other regions, is at least lucky that Gardevoir is the starter, because then you start with Ralts instead of a flying type. Because if you did, you'd be screwed. You wouldn't be able to beat half the regions right out the gate because flying isn't getting past rock. However, ultimately, you really actually wouldn't have a problem in Kanto. You're going to get through Brock, no problem. Misty, no problem. Surge is slightly problematic, but at that point, you'll have a Kirlia with Psychic-type moves, your Pidgeotto, and your Togekiss, which you can't have you can have a level 1 Togekiss, technically, or a level 2 Togekiss. It's a friendship evolution to Togetic, and then you just need a Shiny Stone. So you can actually have a level 5 Togekiss without any issue. Togekiss should have some good coverage. So despite the weakness, you actually can get past Surge, no problem. Then you can get past Erica without issue. You can get past Koga with no issue. At that point, you have your full team. So both Blaine and Sabrina are no problem. Giovanni has some rock types on his team, but it's all ground-based, so you really shouldn't be having that big of a difficulty. Frankly, the only team you are going to struggle with is Lorelei's, because she's an Ice-type gym leader, or Elite Four member. And 2/3 of your team gets clapped by Ice. But because Meloetta can actually naturally learn Fighting-type moves, and Gardevoir has Mega Evolution in this version, you should be able to clear Lorelei. And after that, Bruno's no problem, Agatha's no problem. Even with the poison types, you've got an immensely powerful Mega Psychic type and a Mythical Psychic type, not to mention everything else you have on that team. And Lance is no problem because you've got a Fairy type, 2 Fairy types. Blue is going to be a little tricky. He's got really good coverage, and as a matter of fact, I believe he carries an Electabuzz on his team. If I'm remembering correctly, he's got an Electabuzz. He's got an Electric type, I know that. So you're going to have to switch out to save most of your flying types, but that being said, either your Meloetta or your Gardevoir should get past whatever the Electric type is. Again, I want to say it's Electabuzz. I want to say it is. And that should be able to clear you for blue. So you can be the champion of Kanto pretty easily. Honestly, there's really no issue even with Johto's actually just a clean sweep. Faulkner, you get through fast. Bugsy, you got the type advantage. Whitney is a little tricky, but you should have an evolved Curly at that point, and a Pidgeotto, and your Togekiss. You should be fine. Morty, no problem. You should have no problem with Chuck. The Steel typing is a little tricky, but when it comes to Jasmine, but at that point you have your full team, and again, Meloetta can learn Fighting type moves, so you should be having no issue really. Price is really the only guy you'll have a bit of a problem with. Again, 2/3 of the team are weak to that type, but his team is so low leveled, and you should, like, Palisade being a ground type is actually really not good because half your flying types are going to be able to avoid the ground type moves, hit in hard and fast. Plus, Gardevoir should be able to cover it, and Meloetta. And then you get to Claire. 2 Fairy types should take care of Claire, no problem. And all the Elite Four are pretty easy to get through. I believe you have, Will is the name of the Psychic type Elite Four member. So yeah, you shouldn't have any problem with that. Shouldn't have any problem again with Bruno. Should not have any problem with the Dark type Lucian. Is it Lucian, the Dark type Elite Four member? You should not have any problem. Oh, and Koga. Shouldn't really struggle with Koga, really, because you have a lot of Psychic-type moves on this team. And Lance, again, Fairy beats Dragon outright, so you should have no problems there. It's, once you get into a couple of the other regions, that it starts to become a bit more sporadic. Hoenn, you're going to immediately come into a problem with Watson, because Watson's electric types are going to cleave through both Pidgeotto and Togekiss without that much difficulty. But Kirlia won't be able to turn into Gardevoir yet, so it won't have a Mega Stone or Mega Evolve. But that being said, you should still have the general speed advantage, particularly with Togekiss. And Togekiss should be able to have enough moves under its belt that it should be able. I believe it can learn Aura Sphere naturally. So, I mean, you can teach it. Because once you get a stone evolution, I am all okay with the teach them movesets approach to it. Because it's a stone evolution. You can't learn anything beyond that. But when Amon that doesn't evolve with a stone, I just stick with the natural moves. Because theoretically, you could tailor your team in any way to beat any region then. And I just don't think that's a fair way to go about it. We're looking at this just based on learning the moves they learn. So, yeah, otherwise, beyond that, you won't struggle too much with Flannery. Norman's not going to be a big problem. Winona's fine. Liza and Tate, or Liza, I think it's Liza and Tate or Liz and Tate. Liza, either way, this duo, the psychic duo, you don't have a good answer for them. Even Meloetta, with learning fighting type moves, is not really going to do much against a rock psychic type. Now, that said, I think you still can beat them. You still got enough coverage, I think. Particularly because Oricorio it does have a ghost type move in its Revelation Dance, or whatever the name is. The dance that takes on the type of the Oricorio. And if Togekiss can have enough coverage to help, Gardevoir is still powerful enough to Mega Evolve and should be able to take on a lot of that and has some fairy type moves to help. So it shouldn't be impossible, but that would be difficult. Wallace or Juan is going to be not a really big challenge. Honestly, most of the Elite Four is not a challenge, but you run into a roadblock, and it's a roadblock I don't think you can get over, and that is Steven. He's a rock and steel type champion with a Metagross, which even with a Mega Gardevoir, you're not going to be able to do much against. An Aggron, which you don't have, except for Aura Sphere on Togekiss, you don't have a good answer for that. Skarmory, you have no strong answer for that thing, and it sets up Toxic Spikes, and you have no Steel types to avoid those is it Toxic Spikes, or just sets up Spikes and then it does... No, it sets up Spikes and you have it has Toxic. And then you have the Leap, which, you got Flying types that are strong against Grass, but the Rock type makes that a problem. Claydol is problematic in many ways. And, Armaldo, a Bug Rock type, which you have no strong moves against with this team, even if you give, say, Aura Sphere to Togekiss. So, and then again, you have a Pseudo on that team that is going to hit you hard. And that's not even going with, let's say, the Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire version, where it has Mega Evolution. If you go Mega Metagross against this team, that doesn't matter if you have Mega Gardevoir. So I actually think Hoenn's the first region you can't become champion in. I think even if you are able to get past Liza Tate and Watson, you can't get past Steven. Then we get into Sinnoh. And Sinnoh, I think, is possible. In fact, I'll even go so far as to say yes to Sinnoh on one big catch, because Cynthia's team, surprisingly, is not well matched up, despite her versatility. She has two water types on the team, which with Milotic and Gastrodon, which really actually hurts their diversity. Yes, it's a ground water type, but it's still a water type with another water type. Then you factor in Roserade, which your grass types are going to be able to, or wind types, your flying types are going to be able to handle without any issue. Lucario, which I believe is on that team, is also going to be a little problematic, but you have two psychic types on the team, one Mega Evolves. And then her Spiritomb and her Garchomp, you can handle those with Togekiss or with Gardevoir, no problem, because of the fairy typing. Now, granted, Garchomp does no Earthquake, but then you throw in Togekiss, and it's a strong counter. So, Cynthia you can actually beat without a huge bit of fuss. But that's all contingent on you being... Here's the thing. You can, if you can get past one gym in this region, become the champion. The problem is that gym is at the very beginning. I don't legitimately think you can beat Rorik at the beginning of this game with just a Kirlia. I really don't, because Kirlia has such weak physical stats, and Cranidos, despite being slow and even with Draining Kiss on Ralts. And Kirlia has weak physical stats too. Because of how weak Ralts is, even with Draining Kiss, that Cranidos hits you even once or twice, you're done. You're just done. And if you only have that one Mon against his 3, you can't get past Rorik. So yes, technically speaking, you can be the champion of this region, but you're never getting past the first gym with this team, with just the beginning team. So it's a catch-22 kind of thing. It really is. In Unova, you could possibly become the champion. Honestly, your biggest problem is going to be getting past the fourth gym leader. Elisa? The electric type gym leader in each game. The other three, and no matter if you go black and white 2 or just standard black and white, you shouldn't have a big issue. But the fact is, your Swablu is not going to be evolved into Altaria at this point, which means it's still got a strong weakness to electric. Not to mention those Emolgas are faster than just about anything except for maybe Togekiss on your team. You don't even have Gardevoir yet, so you can't even have Mega Gardevoir. I legitimately don't think you can get past her, because she's going to wipe out 3/4 of your team like that. If by a miracle mile you can get past her, you still got to go up against the Elite Four. And Iris is a maybe. You could honestly, the Elite Four isn't that big of an issue in this gym or region, because the fighting type you'll have no problem dealing with. Psychic, you're pretty much neutral against. Ghost, you got one who's completely immune, and you got a Ghost on your team as well, and you'll be able to Mega Evolve. And then Dark, again, you have 2 fairies. It's Iris and Alder that are the questions. Iris is a possibility thanks to the 2 fairies you have in your team, and a Mega Evolution. That doesn't mean you could. She has a couple other Mon that aren't dragons, like Lapras and Aggron. And Lapras is a big problem because you have nothing strong against Lapras, whereas Lapras can literally take KO 2/3 of your team. So and that Haxorus even is still, and that Hydreigon are still immensely powerful stat-wise. So it's possible, though, to be Iris. But believe it or not, I think Alder's the harder challenge to deal with here, because he has 3 bug types on the team, but 2 of them are literally... Excelgor is faster than anything you have on your team, so it's going to hit you hard and fast. Probably even take out a Mon before you're able to do anything. Then you also have to deal with that Escavalier, which is a bug steel type, which means any strength you had with your flying types is negated. And Volcarona, once it sets up a Quiver Dance, you're in trouble. Doesn't matter if you hit it with a strong enough flying move. You're in trouble once that Quiver Dance is set up, because I don't think any of these Mon carries are move strong enough to one-shot that Volcarona. And that's not even including the Vanillush, the Vanillux, which Ice type, again, 2/3 weak to. The Buffalon, which is just a physical beast. And the Druddigon, which, admittedly, I'm like, why do you have a Druddigon on your team? That is a weird Mon to have on this team. But still, now the Druddigon, you can handle with the fairies, but still. It's possible to be Iris. I don't think you get past Alder. With Kalos, honestly, this is a clean sweep. The only individual you will struggle with, I think, at all on this team, or in this generation, I should think, is, admittedly, Grant will be a little tough, because even though you have a Pidgeotto, it's a Rock-type gym leader, but Kirlia having Psychic-type moves should be enough to be able to kind of put down them. And again, Pidgeotto can still hit hard enough to deal enough damage or do enough support to help Kirlia get the win. That one, I think, is honestly your hardest fight, though, because once you get past that, the fighting type gym, the grass type gym, they all go down quickly, and at that point, you'll have your full team by the electric gym. And none of the Elite Four, save for maybe the Steel type Elite Four member, are going to be a big problem. The Steel is only going to be a big problem because it's going to be resistant to a lot of the attacks you have, but it doesn't have a lot of strength against anyone except for your Gardevoir and your Togekiss. And Gardevoir can still Mega Evolve, and still have Psychic moves. So I think you can handle it. And then Diantha, I ironically think you can handle Diantha without too much difficulty. So, because again, she has 2 dragons, Goodra and Tyrantrum, and you have the 2 fairies. So I think that really helps balance it out. The last 2 real quick. Galar, surprisingly, yes. I think you can be the champion of Galar. There's really no reason I think you couldn't win in Galar, to be honest. You're going to, even once you get to like Kobu, your team is still pretty balanced out. Once you then get to the 4th gym, be it B or Alistair, B, you have the type advantage for. Alistair, you got enough diversity with the typings along with flying that you should be okay. You should have no problem with Opal. You should have no problem with the ice. Okay, the ice type or the rock type gym will give you some problems. But again, you're allowed to have Mega on this team, and you have a Mythical. I think you'll be okay. And it's same with the Dark. You should have no problem with that. And even Raihan's not that difficult. And even Leon. Surprisingly, this is one of the times Leon's team really isn't all that solid against you. Yeah, he's got the Mr. Rhyme. Yes, he has a dragon type on the team. Yeah, he's got the Aegislash, but your 2 fairies should be able to handle the 2 dragons. Charizard, as strong as it is, you should be able to manage against it without too much difficulty. And again, adding Mega Evolution into the equation, I actually think this is a team that can beat Leon. Last but not least, though, is Paldea, and Paldea is surprisingly... I don't think so in Paldea. And it comes simply down to this. You can't get past Iona. You just can't. You're only going to have a Kirlia at this point, not a Gardevoir. You're still only going to have a Swablu, not an Altaria, which would have at least a neutral stance against Electric. And yeah, her Electric Mon are just going to cleave through, and you still have a Togekiss, sure, but you only have a Pidgeotto, so you're probably not getting past Iona. Even if you do, you're going to hit another wall when it comes to the Steel-type Elite Four member later on. Because, again, you have no real strength against Steel, save for Meloetta. And that Meloetta is probably going to go down pretty quick. Because it is a mythical, it's not a tanky one. Even with Mega Gardevoir on the team, it's kind of just like a neutral back and forth you have with that. So I would say it's not likely you could become the champion of Paldea. Now, you might say, well, just go and take on a different gym leader. Well, then that defeats the point of what we're trying to do. Yes, you can challenge the gyms in any order. It's bullshit, though, that they're not level scaled when you go there. Gen 10, make that happen. Because I have a feeling you're not going to go back to the status quo of oh, you have to go here, you have to go here. They gave you the option, but they encouraged you to go to different ones. Here, next time in Gen 10, I think it has to be level scaled. It's such an easy thing to do, from a tech, even as someone who's not tech savvy like me, that's an easy thing to do. But regardless, definitely could be the champion in some regions, definitely couldn't in others. This is the team that I have for Belldandy. Let me know what you think. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.